Hello, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scaryish podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace, this is Adam Diaz,
Hello.
And we are here to talk about some cool stuff.
Indeed, and we're here to talk about that cool motorcycle guy going by in the background at fucking 12:30 at night in a residential neighborhood. God, I hate them. I'm really excited for this episode. I knew kind of exactly what I was going to be covering this week. It wasn't like I'm not sure what my topic's going to be. Maybe I'll do a cryptid.
Yeah, you messaged me and you're like, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I knew what I wanted to do, and I think it turned out okay. I'm going to be covering the Doomsday scenario of an asteroid striking the planet, and I'm kind of excited to get to it. What are you going to be covering, Robin?
I am going to be doing Eastern State Penitentiary.
Penitentiary? That sounds super exciting. I know that we've actually had this one on our list for a while, the Eastern State Penitentiary. So,
really?
Yeah, at least, well, I have a book that I go to sometimes for inspiration that was given to us by a spooky friend named Steve, who's also our DM. My DM. He's your fellow D&D player in the game that I run, that I DM. And
It's getting complicated.
Yeah, there's a lot of D&D going on. But anyways, he gave me a magazine that has a bunch of different haunted stuff in it that I tap for inspiration every now and then, and it is definitely
Kind of like your mana.
Kind of like my mana.
Like you tap your mana cards.
So now we've just jumped straight into
Magic the Gathering
to make this super duper nerdy. But I think you're going to be going first, so I will let you take it away.
All right, so this week I am inspired by watching some show on Hulu that has there's like one guy from Ghost Adventures that got kicked off of Ghost Adventures. He started this other ghost investigation show with a girl that I assume is his girlfriend. I don't know. They go around to different places in the UK, and this is not an ad because it is not a good show.
Robin's letting you know, and she's like, by the way, the show sucks. We don't endorse it.
Yeah, this place is also not in the UK, but it doesn't really correlate. It's just that show inspired me because they went to all these different prisons and they went to all these different places. And anyway, I'm doing the Eastern State Penitentiary. And it's been featured on Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, and even BuzzFeed Unsolved with my favorite ghoul boys.
All the spooky things.
Yeah. So
and now Scaryish. So
now Scaryish.
The top four. Let's be real. The top four are now rounded out.
So I know, right? We're getting up there. We're famous. We're there.
Don't even say that out loud.
Oh my god.
You know it's not true.
I know.
Although we did meet Cat Beatrix this week.
Yeah, that was so cool. Yes, we had an event this week in, where was it? Buena Park, California. It was just like a little tiny anime market, super small. It was not at all crazy lucrative for me. It was just fun to meet new people. We got to meet Cat Beatrix. It was funny because I was like, well, we know you as Cat Genie on Instagram. She's like, well, I'm Cat Beatrix. And then we're both just like, oh,
we know you so well in that case.
And it's great because we see her every single week in the live streams. If you folks haven't joined our live streams, twitch.tv/Scaryish podcast or youtube.com/Scaryish. Join us for our live streams every Tuesday because
6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
It's fun. It's nice to meet new people, and it was so great to see one of these people that we see all the time on our live streams in person, and she was the nicest person in the world. She brought us boba. It was great.
I told her I didn't like boba, so she brought me tea, regular tea, and it was delicious.
Yeah, dude, my tea was so effing good. Oh my god. It was a weekend full of boba, so much boba.
She wound up having so much boba. It's really nice to like go out, do an event, and like meet some of the spooky friends, because you guys are all amazing. And it really is just like meeting a friend for the first time, even though we've kind of like known each other through like all of these different forms of like media. So it's surreal and it's super cool.
It's funny because we put so much of ourselves out there, so everyone knows so much about us, and it's just like, we don't know anything about you. Tell us about yourself. But sometimes when I ask people that, I'm like, am I being weird by asking people that? You know what I mean?
I just want to be like, it's like that scene in X-Men 2 where he asks the kid like what his name is. He's like, John. He's like, tell me your real name, John. He's like, Pyro. It's like, tell us your real name. Cat Beatrix? Oh, now we know who you are.
Yeah, so it was just super funny. It was a good weekend. We got to hang out with Jessica and Jennifer and their family. It was great. And it was just so fun. You guys are awesome. We love you. And yeah, so it was a fun weekend.
Yeah, we had a good time. I know we just kind of interjected that into the beginning of Robin's topic, but yeah, shout out to everyone we saw this weekend. All of you folks are absolutely amazing.
All right, so back to the topic at hand. Eastern State Penitentiary, or ESP for short, which is so funny to me because, you know, ESP, what does that mean?
Mind reading, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's like when you can read minds or control stuff with your mind or something like that, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure ESP is mind reading, but
okay.
I don't remember what it stands for.
I have no clue. So I just imagine the psychic chick, Sabrina from Pokemon, when you get to Lavender Town.
Right.
Yeah, and I just always assumed that everything that, like, Kadabra and stuff was doing where they're bending spoons is all ESP. It's not, obviously, but...
It's not, because we all know the truth. There is no spoon.
What?
Jeez, Rob. Oh my god. You don't get a Matrix reference? Give me your Keanu Reeves card. I'm taking it back. You don't get to carry it anymore.
Okay. Anyway, so this place is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Never been anywhere close to there. It's here in the U.S. of A., so you guys would have to come out here to visit.
You might not know this. Is it in East Philadelphia? Or West Philadelphia, born and raised?
This episode's just going to be full of all these references. Like, we've had...
Like every episode that's come before it.
Oh, that's true. Okay, so you can find the Eastern State Penitentiary at 2027 Fairmont Avenue. If you ever want to take a peeky, go out there, do stuff.
If you're close by and you're having trouble locating it, just commit a serious crime and you'll be taken there.
It's not in operation anymore.
Son of a bitch, never mind.
It operated between 1829 and 1971. So it's been around for quite a while.
50 years late.
That's a long time. And you can imagine that a lot of things happened within its walls, as with any prison. I bet any prison that gets cleared out or closed down, whatever, is haunted in some way.
Right.
You know, so many people go through there.
I doubt any place is like this. This was like the happiest prison. Yeah, it's crazy how happy people were here.
It's just painted pink and has Hello Kitty on the walls.
It's just not how prisons work.
All right, so this place is literally like, it looks like a castle. And the halls were designed to have the feel of a church, apparently. It has a neo-Gothic look to it, and apparently it was designed to strike fear into those who would even think of committing a crime. So you would see this thing and you're like, maybe I don't want to be there.
So it's the Batman of buildings.
Sure, yeah. And it's built kind of like the spokes of a wheel. It's a big rectangle shape. The walls of the outside are like a big rectangle shape. And then there's one circle in the middle. And then there's branches like spokes of a wheel that are coming off of it. And each spoke of the wheel is like a section of cell blocks. So you'd have to walk down this long corridor or hallway or just this long building that all the cells would be in for these different places. And I think you should totally put that picture on the Instagram because...
Well, usually we put 4 each, and Robin sent me like 7 this time, so you're going to have to pick which ones are going up. So
just put 5 of mine, because...
I have 4 that I want to put up, so...
Yeah, so do 5. You can do 10 or you can do 9.
You can do 9, yeah.
On Instagram, yeah.
There's
so
one that's like the recap of the episode. That's always on there. Then there's 4 of my topic and 4 of your topic. Robin is now revealing how little she knows about what I post on our Instagram.
Oh, I get it now. Okay. Anyway, so this place is actually considered by some to be the world's first true penitentiary. I think that's such a strange thing to say or claim or whatever, because I don't really know what designates it to be a true penitentiary. You know, there have been jails and dungeons that have existed for eons, and I guess what's different about this particular penitentiary is that it emphasized reform instead of punishment, hence penitentiary. I guess it's supposed to make prisoners penitent, and...
Only the penitent man.
Every time I type that word, that's literally what I heard in my head.
I'm glad at least you got that one. You can keep your Harrison Ford card.
I love Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is so good. Anyway, some say that the doors were made really short for prisoners so that when they entered their rooms, they had to bow to get in, like an act of penitence. Hence the penitent one shall pass. Anyway.
They did that so that they wouldn't get their heads cut off.
Yeah, I know, but you know...
We all know that. We've seen the movie, Robin.
Some say that leaving them in their cells alone to think about their actions would leave them to be even more penitent. They built the cells where they would only get one source of light, and it was like this little hole of light in the ceiling, and they called it like, quote unquote, the eye of God. It's just like...
It's intense.
It's really intense, and I guess that's why people say like this is the first true penitentiary, because everything about the structures was built for that purpose, you know?
It almost sounds like all the cells are almost what you'd equate solitary to.
Yeah, so...
in, like, other prisons.
Everyone had their own cell, like solitary confinement. So that's kind of nice until...
Is it, though?
Well, these are nice size cells. They're like 8 by 10 by 12. Everybody gets their own cell that's pretty big. It's like the size... bigger than our bedroom. So it's like...
That's fucked up. That makes me feel great about my life right now.
So that's a pretty good size, and it's nice until it drives you completely mad, because you got your bed in there. I think you have a bed, you have a chair, or is it the toilet? Bed, toilet, and a Bible. I forget. You only have very minimal things. You have nothing else.
Yeah, it's prison.
So there's no interaction between prisoners. When you leave your cell for your 1 hour of exercise / daytime, they put a black hood over your head so you can't see anybody else. You can't see each other. If you and your next door neighbor will never go out at the same time. They do not want anyone interacting with each other.
Prisoners are not allowed to date.
Yeah, pretty much. The oppressing isolation, unfortunately, did lead many prisoners to take their own lives. Over 50 suicides occurred within the walls of the penitentiary. Yeah, it's crazy. What's actually nice in theory is that the warden was legally required to visit every single inmate every day. And the overseers were also made to see each inmate at least 3 times a day. So that's a lot of attention on every prisoner. It's not like they're leaving them to die or anything like that. You know what I mean? The cells were also pretty advanced for the time period. This place opened in 1829. So having a faucet with running water and flushing toilets is pretty advanced. I mean, I can't even imagine living in the 1800s. It's just a big old note for me.
I mean, it's a miracle every time you flush a toilet and that porcelain bowl eats your poop. It's just like, wow.
I'm just imagining your poop just smearing on the side.
That's so gross. Why would you imagine that? I made it gross enough and you had to go and take it up a notch.
That's how you know if the toilet's great, if it can just clean that shit off.
That's just so fucking gross right now.
Anyway, that's how tired I am. Okay, so guards would flush toilets remotely twice a week. So it's probably to prevent any toilet wine from being made, I guess, or something like that. There was even central heating, so they had pipes that like ran through the rooms, and then they'd pump hot water through the pipes. So it's like minimal heating, but it's still heating during the winter.
Something.
Yeah. Before the prison was completely built, it consistently came across overcrowding issues. And this prison was designed to house 250 people. And over time, it got like 1,700 people crammed in there. So 250 originally turned into 1,700. That's a lot of people.
That's what is known as way too many.
Yep. It went from petty criminals in its early days to more intense perpetrators as time went on. So
it almost sounds like they were kitty cats. Perpetrators.
Lots of criminals came through. It's said that upwards of 70,000 served time at the Eastern State Penitentiary. Criminals like Al Capone came through here. And, I mean, Al Capone only served 8 months. 8 months for carrying a concealed deadly weapon. That's what he got put in there for. And his particular cell was the nicest in the entire prison. He had a desk, he had a lamp, he had paintings, he had a big cabinet radio. During his stint, he complained of being haunted by the ghost of James Clark, who was a victim of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in Chicago, which was like a big gang violence rivalry thing. So this James Clark was a victim to it. He died. This whole thing, it could be ghosts, but it could also be his syphilis.
I was going to say his syphilitic brain.
He did end up pretty cray-cray at the end there. So either way, Capone would wake up screaming at a man he called Jimmy night after night, screaming for him to leave him alone. I've watched the Drunk History episode on Al Capone, and all I can imagine is the guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Right.
But it's just...
fishing in a swimming pool.
Fishing in a swimming pool. But I'm pretty sure they covered the fact that he was in this jail and would see this ghost, too, in that episode. But, yeah, it could totally be a syphilis. It was unchecked. Who knows? Anyway, Willie Sutton was a bank robber who was incarcerated here at one point, and on April 3rd, 1945, there was a huge escape from the prison that included 12 inmates, one of which was Sutton. Over the course of a year, these individuals dug a 97-foot tunnel under the prison wall, and it kind of reminded me of Shawshank Redemption with the big hole in his wall that no one noticed.
He just hid it behind a poster, and no one looked behind the poster.
I just don't understand how you can dig 100 feet and no one notices.
Right. Also, spoiler alert for Shawshank Redemption. If you haven't seen it yet, what have you been doing with your life? Let's be real.
During some renovations, they did come across another 30 incomplete tunnels. So that's a heck of a lot of digging on the prisoners' parts. What these criminals will do to get out of there, you know what I mean? They're like, we need to get out of here. We'll do whatever to get out. Dig 100-foot holes. Or tunnels, I guess. It's not really a hole, but...
No, I'm just trying to think of which movie besides Count of Monte Cristo. I just keep thinking of Count of Monte Cristo because there is a prison break in the movie, and at some point he references, one of the guys who's doing it, references that they were digging for a really, really long time until they realized they dug the wrong way.
What?
So, like, imagine how long it would take to dig a tunnel like that just to be like, oh shit, I've been digging towards the inside of the prison, not towards the wall. It's because of the nature of the prison from Count of Monte Cristo. But anyways.
There's a Steve McQueen movie, too, where they dig a hole, I'm pretty sure. And they dig a tunnel out of the prison. And I forget what movie that was, too. Anyway, Sutton didn't get far, regardless of whether or not they dug this tunnel, because they caught him, like, super soon after he escaped. So
worth it, though.
Kudos for trying. Just saying. I mean, we made the effort to get out of there, but to no avail. In 1913, the prison was found to have unacceptable conditions, and it went from the solitary system for keeping like each room to each one prisoner to each room, and then they turned it into a congregate prison. So that's probably how it ended up 250 originally to shoving 1,700 people in there.
I was going to say, there's no way that they like made that many more rooms. They were just doubling and tripling up in rooms. Yeah.
So within our prison system, overcrowding is always an issue. It just really makes me want to start playing Prison Architect again.
Wow. I thought you were going to say, like, get into prison reform and, like, do some sort of stuff with, like, senators, but no, you're just like, Prison Architect,
no, I love Prison Architect because I highly recommend it if you guys have never played it. If you like Sims and you like quirky things like prison building, it's really weird because they tell you, like, hey, your prison's overcrowded, do something about it, and so you just gotta build more cells and do more stuff for your prisoners. It's really cool. Anyway, unfortunately, when it comes to prisons, it's not always sunshine and daisies or anything like that.
Oh, you don't say.
Though it started out with hopes of creating remorseful and penitent criminals, guards and counselors of ESP had their own idea of punishment when prisoners broke rules. So as soon as they were like, bro, we're not doing this solitary thing anymore, we're moving over to this other way of controlling peeps, they were like, we're gonna punish them. You know what I mean? So these punishments were both physical and psychological. They just wanted to fuck these prisoners up. They would douse prisoners in freezing water outside in the winter, Or they would use this thing called an iron gag, and it would chain their tongues to their wrists so that if they struggled, they'd risk the chance that they might tear their tongue.
That's fucked up.
So, yeah, many inmates died from blood loss before they were freed from this thing.
They would also take them outside and make them all put their tongues in the telephone poles, like in Christmas Story.
Yep, sure. Some people said that they would douse them with water and then hang them outside, and so by the morning, their skin would have a layer of ice. It's just so messed up, dude. The worst prisoners were dropped into a pit that they called the Hole, which was an underground cell block under Block 14 with no light or human contact, and there was scarce food for as long as 2 weeks. So all they would do is they'd toss a slice of bread and water down to them. And it's just enough for them to survive if the rats and roaches didn't get to it first.
Wow.
So messed up.
I'm going to say, if you're only eating bread and water, it appears you also have rats and roaches that you could be feasting upon.
So nasty, though. I can't...
You gotta do what you gotta do to survive.
Have you ever stepped on a roach?
Yeah.
That shit juicy.
Exactly. They gotta be delicious.
No.
If you're starving, you're gonna do what you're gonna do to survive.
No way. Ugh, I'm just...
Robin will die with her pinkies up. She's too bougie to save her own life.
Nope. There was even something that they called the mad chair, and you would be strapped to this chair with leather straps so tight, almost impossible to make any movements, and then they'd leave you there for days. So there'd be no food, you'd just be sitting there. The straps were so tight that your body would just lose feeling from the lack of circulation. Zach Bagans... He freaking strapped himself to this chair and supposedly got an EVP telling him to get out. It's so fucking stupid.
There's this thing that happens when you play D&D where you're like, a voice from afar says, and then whatever needs to be said.
Yeah.
And it's like, it wasn't an EVP. It was a voice from afar saying, like, get the fuck out, you loser.
It was just so dumb, because, like, the EVP doesn't even sound like that. It's just, you can make it say whatever you want it to.
Right, you just type it on the screen and people will try and listen to hear what
you said.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh no, yeah, I do hear dog shit. Right. You're right.
Cinnamon lollipops, I totally hear it.
Oh my goodness. I was just, when I watched that scene, I was like, what? This is stupid. Because he looks ridiculous strapped to this... Oh, God, I hate him. Anyway, okay, this is not Hate Corner. This is... anyway.
We haven't had Hate Corner in so long, though, please.
So, you could get in trouble for whispering to others or tapping on the pipes to attempt to communicate. This place was just not fun times. Executions, though, weren't carried out here, so that's a good thing, but it sure had its share of murders. Murder. So I assume that where there are hardened criminals, there's going to be murder. Someone's going to shank someone else. Even in Prison Architect, people get shanked.
Wow.
So at least 2 guards were murdered and a dozen inmates. Hundreds of them did die of disease and old age, though, so there's that. Graterford Prison was opened in the 1920s to take on responsibilities previously held by Eastern State. So there was so much happening at Eastern State that they needed help. So they decided, like, bro, we need to open up another prison. They did, to try and ease off of them, you know? Like, we'll take some responsibility so you're not dealing with all that bullshit. Eastern State was closed in 1971. There were so many things that were happening that were just like super sketch. And a lot of the prisoners and guards were transferred to Graterford Prison nearby. It was like 31 miles away or something. So it's not too far. It's kind of far, not too far.
It's not far like when you're looking on a map, but when you're transporting prisoners, 31 miles feels like you're going around the world.
I mean, this weekend from our Airbnb to Medieval Times was like 20 miles.
It was 11 miles.
Was it 11 miles?
11 miles.
Okay, it was 11 miles. That drive was not that long. It was like an hour to get there. It was an hour if it was 30 miles. I feel like you could get there in an hour.
It just depends on traffic down there.
In Pennsylvania?
No, I'm talking about like where we stayed.
Oh, no. No, I meant like, because it took us like 20 minutes to travel 11 miles. 30 miles, you could probably do it in an hour. You know what I mean?
That'd be if you're going 30 miles an hour, because that's how that works. If you're going 30 miles and you're traveling at 30 miles an hour, it'll take you an hour to go 30 miles.
Shut the fuck up.
Are you serious? You don't understand how units of measurement work? So miles per hour measures
so it would take
how
you
many
30
miles.
minutes?
It would take you... No, if you're going 30 miles and you're going at 30 miles per hour... That's how long it would take you. An hour to go that distance.
Yeah, so I'm saying it would take you 30 minutes to go 30 miles if you're going 60 miles an hour.
Correct. You're doubling your speed, so you're reducing your time by half.
I am not good at math, guys.
Future engineers.
Oh my god.
Of the United States, ladies and gentlemen.
Godspeed the world when I get out there.
It's like that fucking YouTube video of that chick where it's like, if you're going 80 miles an hour, how far will you go in an hour? And she's like, it depends on how fast the tires are turning. And she goes into like this super ridiculous theory, and like she just doesn't get what that means.
I was just thinking, I was just comparing it to how long it took us to drive that distance. Whatever. Fuck this shit. I'm out. Episode over.
But not really.
Anyway, God. So, many strange occurrences have been reported within the prison's walls. There was an instance reported by a locksmith, which was probably the one that I saw most when I went to 1,000,001 different websites about this thing. He was doing some restoration in cell block 4, where he was removing a lock from a cell door. This lock was 140 years old. It was 140 years old. So he was taking off this lock, and while doing so, a huge force came over him and kept him from moving. Some say that by removing the lock, he opened some sort of gateway or something like that, which I know is super cheesy.
It is super cheesy.
But it's like he allowed the spirits that were trapped there behind it to leave their eternal cells.
Why would they hold him down just before they leave?
Well, he claimed to have had an out-of-body experience and witnessed negative energy bursting through the cell. And supposedly he saw anguished faces appearing on the wall with a bunch of spirits swirling around the cell block, one of which dominated the others and beckoned the locksmith to him. So this man claims that the experience was so vivid that it still made him shudder in fear, like years later. I would have been like, nah, find a new locksmith, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, fuck this shit, I'm keeping your money, bye.
It's thought that the murders and deaths of past inmates are said to haunt the prison grounds, which I totally understand considering so many came and went. The catwalk section of the prison was the location of a shadow figure that was caught on video during the show Ghost Hunters. Many visitors report experiencing different things in this location, things like temperature changes, shadow figures, and supposedly incredible EVPs have been recorded on the catwalk. And the EVP that was...
On the catwalk, yeah.
And the yeah. On the catwalk, the EVP that was captured was of a male voice that stated, I'm
too sexy for my shirt. Sorry, I had to do it.
It said, I'm lonely.
Aw.
So... I mean, in solitary, you'd be lonely. I could totally see that. Within cell block 12, which is a restricted location within the facility, people have claimed to have also experienced some pretty haunting things. They claim to see shadow figures moving around the area. They even hear whispers, screams, and laughter in this block, as well as 4 and 6. While walking through the facility, visitors feel as if they're being watched by an invisible entity. Several accounts have these screams described as if someone were in extreme pain, like they were being tortured. Cell Block 7 is said to have been the scene of the sounds of screaming babies. Why babies would be there confuses me because...
Maybe visitation hours or something like that?
I mean, I guess... There are reports of streaks of lights and orbs. Many say that they even hear the sound of someone walking through the halls and cell doors slamming open and shut. They even have cell door handles jiggling. And that would definitely give me the heebie-jeebies because you can explain doors moving, but you can't really explain someone jiggling a door handle. You know, that would just freak me out because the wind can't just be like, Jiggle,
Yeah.
jiggle, jiggle.
The wind's gonna do it one way or the other, but like the wind like having the delicate way to like jiggle the handle just seems odd.
People have also had physical encounters like getting tapped on the shoulder. So they'd get tapped on the shoulder, they'd turn around, and there'd be nothing there. And it's not like your friends tapping you on the shoulder, you look around, and then
They're on the other shoulder.
they're on the other shoulder. It's not like that, okay? Some say that they've seen full-bodied apparitions. You and your Ghostbusters.
Full floating torso apparition.
Is that it?
No, I fucked it up.
Okay. I'm going to take your Ghostbusters card.
No.
Just take that away from you right now.
I'm tired.
So they see these full-bodied apparitions that have sacks over their heads that are aimlessly floating around. Not floating, roaming. I mean, I don't know if they're floaty. They could be. They could do whatever they want to be. These reports aren't just from after the prison closed, though. So reports of strange sounds heard by staff, guards, and even prisoners and visitors date back to the 1940s. So that's a long history of haunts. It's not like ghosts are popular now, we're going to make this a thing, you know? Reports of weird stuff happening has been happening since, 1940s? World War II.
Wow, that's a long time.
So... many employees have allegedly quit with no notice, running in fear. A little morbidly funny fact, in 1942, Governor Gifford Pinchot, or Pinchot, his cat was killed by a dog named Pep, and he sentenced the dog to life imprisonment at Eastern State. The dog even had a mugshot taken and a prisoner number assigned. I mean... It's sad, but it's so cute. It's like...
Except for the cat death.
I mean, he loved his cat so much, he was just like, this dog is going to jail, you know? It's just... It's precious.
And then it joined the jail basketball team. There's no rules that a dog can't play jail basketball. I used to have a friend where every time a dog was involved, he would like shout out like as if it were a Disney movie.
Air Bud?
Yeah, where it's like, there's no rule that a dog can't, and then insert crazy scenario here. I challenge you to do that, folks. Anyone who has anyone bring up a dog, just shout it out for fun.
I love Air Bud, okay?
I've never seen it.
Oh, there's a scene where he tries to get the dog to go away. Oh, it's so sad. I don't know. It's a good movie. I love Air Bud. It's stupid and it's dumb, but it's just... It's like hits you right in the feels. It's nostalgia. Okay?
Point to your feels, Robin. She's not pointing, ladies and gentlemen.
What are my feels? Where is it?
That's what I'm asking you.
Oh, like your heart. Straight to the heart. Shot
She's
through
still
the heart.
not pointing.
Why would I point? No one can see me.
I literally said point. It doesn't matter. Just keep going.
All right. Anyway, they came out with other movies. There's like Air Pups or something now. They
came out with a documentary about the dog from Air Bud, too.
Shut up.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure it had, like, some horrible affliction after the movie that it had to get over and then, like, go on to live a very happy life. I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't seen it, so.
All right, so anyway, the prison is obviously not in use anymore, so it's in a state of despair. Disrepair.
I was going to say despair. Dang, dog.
Oh my god, I'm
This
so
is a
tired.
sad place.
Okay, no, it's in a state of disrepair, kind of taken over by nature. The city of Philadelphia purchased the property with intent to redevelop, but the place was designated as a National Historic Landmark in 1965. So you can go visit it 7 days a week, 12 months out of the year. It's open year-round, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., so if you want to see what it's all about, you can go do that. Just be careful, since some people claim to have fallen sick while visiting the penitentiary.
It's that black mold.
I mean, it could be. This building's been around forever. You never know.
I'm watching a lot of HGTV. That goddamn black mold.
It attracts about 220,000 visitors a year. About 24 paranormal investigations happen a year as well. And according to the assistant program director, Brett Bertolino, they almost always find evidence of activity.
Of course they do.
So, yeah, apparently each year they also have, like, this haunted house Halloween event, so you can go to that too. I thought that was pretty interesting, but I would be so scared. You can't get lost, though. This isn't like the Winchester house, where you could totally get lost in it. There's something in the center, and everything else branches from the center.
Right.
So you can't really get lost. Maybe the center is like the heart, and it's eating everybody.
I hate you so much.
But yeah, that is Eastern State Penitentiary.
Right on. That's good stuff. That's some creepy shit. Like, haunted prisons are definitely a thing I would believe in before I'd believe in a lot of other haunted locations.
Like Alcatraz and stuff like that.
Yeah, because so much tragedy and traumatic shit happens in those walls, so it's 100% something I
It's a lot of bad energy, too.
Yeah, it's a lot of bad people. It's like a centralized location of bad people. So, good stuff. Good topic, Robin. So, before we move on to my topic, we're going to take a commercial break. That's a new one. And we're back with the Robin Grace Jazz Band, or whatever
I'm so tired.
the fuck you
My
are.
sounds are so... I can't
Awkward.
today.
So like I mentioned, this week I did have an idea of exactly what I wanted to do, and I was thinking about it a bit yesterday, and I almost immediately had my brain latch onto this idea, and I just could not let it go. So we'll see if I get enough out of this for a topic, and I wrote that, and I think I did, and how fun I can make it, and I don't know how fun I made it, but I definitely made it very Doomsday-ish, because what is more fun than a Doomsday scenario? And now that I've already covered Yellowstone's supervolcano, which is funny because I accidentally hit the M key, and so my script says Yellowstone supervolcano before, I think we can all agree that that was a blast. Get it? Blast?
I get it.
LOL. But this time, instead of our collective death coming from below, I wanted to cover what would happen if it came from above, which is to say, if an asteroid struck our planet. Now, you're probably wondering, how did I come up with this idea? Well, two things mainly. One is that people were posting that an asteroid was supposedly going to collide or possibly collide with Earth on Saturday, which is nonsense. It was actually passing by at like an incredibly far distance. So people just like to hear that it's like a near miss, which just means that it came close to Earth. Like, relatively close, but realistically, there was absolutely no chance of it striking Earth.
So, what's the difference between an asteroid and a meteor?
I have all the definitions here in my script, so I will get to that.
Okay.
The second reason that I decided to pick this topic is because I spent so much time at work today just daydreaming about the sweet release of death. But I also wanted a daydream where everyone else died, so naturally this is where my head was at. Like, sometimes I really wish that you could see what someone was thinking in their head on their eyeballs. Like, if your eyeballs were like a screen and your brain was projecting your thoughts to it, because every meeting I was in today, everyone would have just seen something out of, like, Deep Impact and would have just left me alone for the rest of the day.
Wouldn't it be weird if things worked kind of like Wild Wild West?
Never seen
it.
Where,
oh, God!
Where everything's stupid and nothing makes sense and the movie sucks.
Well, one guy gets his head cut off, right? And so they take his head and, like, project the last thing he saw through his eyes onto a screen.
You're really making me want to watch this stupid movie.
It's so bad. Oh, man.
Now that we're talking about movies, I think this is a good time to mention that I have never seen Deep Impact. Like, there's only room for one asteroid movie in this dude's life, and I am an Armageddon man. And I'd also like to mention that Armageddon sucks.
But, babe, I don't want to close my eyes.
I hate you
I don't
so
want to
much.
fall asleep.
I would
It's
miss
such
you,
a good
babe.
movie.
And I don't
Oh,
want to miss a
man.
thing. It's not really a good movie.
I mean, I cried
kind of
when
fun,
I watched it.
but it's not really good. Anyways, let's get down to it. There are a lot of asteroids for me to reference, real and imaginary, but like my mood today, I mainly just want to focus on the death. So before I do that, let's define a few things. One, a comet is a body of ice, rock, and dust, and it can be several miles in diameter and orbits the sun, like Halley's Comet, Hale-Bopp. That's why we see them every, like, 27 years or whatever their rotation cycle is, or revolution cycle, or whatever the hell you call it. That's what a comet is. A meteoroid is a small, rocky, or metal object, usually between the size of a grain of sand, so tiny, and the size of a boulder. It also orbits the sun, and it typically comes from either a comet or an asteroid. It's like a piece of it that broke off. You with me so far?
Yep.
All right. A meteor, not a meteoroid, but a meteor is a meteoroid that entered Earth's atmosphere and vaporized. That's why we have things called meteor showers. These are them shooting stars we all see on Pirates of the Caribbean at the beginning before you like get into the thing that tells you that you're going to like go on your adventure and then you fall or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's what a shooting star actually is. A meteorite, because there's meteoroid, that's in the sky.
All right.
Meteoroid in the sky. Meteor in our sky burnt up, and meteorite is a meteor that actually hits the Earth, or as I like to call it, a slappy boy.
What?
So just imagine like a meteor just like slapping the Earth, and the Earth being like, "Hey!" And there, of course, is
you were definitely tired writing that.
Tired. There, of course, is an asteroid, which is a large object made of rock or metal that orbits the sun. The same definition as a meteoroid. However, these are typically larger objects, typically 10 meters or 30 feet in size or higher. So once they get to around 30 feet, they're just considered an asteroid instead of a meteor. So basically, if it's metal or rock and small, meteoroid. If it's ice, it's a comet. And if it's metal or rock and big, it's an asteroid. That's all you really need to know. So now that we have that established, we know the names of our killers, or depending on your mood, the name of the swift hand of justice ending your torment.
Oh my God.
So what happens if a meteor becomes a slappy boy and hits the Earth? Well, it achieves its desired title of meteorite, but there is typically not a ton of damage associated with it. In fact, there are only 2 people that have been documented to have been struck by meteorites in the entire history of humankind. Mainly because we didn't document these things for a very long time, and also because it is an astronomically high chance, or an astronomically low chance, of you being struck by a meteorite.
Isn't it usually just like it crash lands onto your farm, and then you walk up to it, this alien takes over your skin, and then try and find this freaking solar system or
and then your ghost dad. I don't know which one you were talking about.
Men in Black.
Oh, that was Men in Black? My bad. So anyways, there were 2 people that survived meteorite strikes. One lived in Alabama. It was November 30th, 1954. Her name was Ann Hodges. And a 9-pound meteorite, so a heavy meteorite, came through her roof, bounced off her radio, and hit her in the thigh.
The size of a cat.
It left her with a bruise. So nothing too bad. She just got hit. It's kind of funny because that like started this really big lawsuit between her and her landlady. Because her landlady owned the house, and she was like, "That's my meteorite." And this chick was like, "It fell from the sky and hit me. It's my meteorite." And they went to fucking court.
Oh my God.
So
whose meteorite was it?
I think it wound up being the homeowner's meteorite, but they also told the homeowner, like, since it's your meteorite on your house, you have to pay for her medical bills and the damage to her radio because you destroyed her property.
Yeah.
So it was just a bunch of stupid nonsense. But it is very famously the one person that was documented to have been hit by a meteorite until 2009, when a 14-year-old was struck by a meteorite the size of a pea. Now, I found a couple of articles confirming...
Did it pierce his skin?
That it hit him. It just hit him, and he was like, "Ow." And then he checked it, and it looked really weird. And he thought it was a rock, and he's like, why the hell would a rock fall from the sky so fast?
But I just... Okay, so my logic was, because it's smaller, it's like a fucking bullet coming in through the atmosphere.
Again, terminal velocity has to do with our gravity. It came in... It got slowed down when it was being burnt up, and the wind resistance as it was falling down to the earth, and the size of it, the density, the mass, whatever, made it so it just struck him. He was like, "Ow, that hurts," and he took it with him. It was tested, and it turns out it was actually not from this earth.
Do these things carry radiation?
No, they do not. Now, and that's another thing, too, like, I'll get to a little bit later. It's just, I have a few interesting facts about Jupiter, because I think Jupiter's so cool.
Oh, my gosh.
But anyways.
Are you going to sing Drops of Jupiter?
Hell no, I'm not going to sing that fucking song.
I don't even know how that song goes.
Something about rain, drops, falling on your head.
That's what I was going to...
No,
okay.
We're wrong. Okay, anyways. This pea thing hit him, and it's confirmed. That said, I think that this kid... was totally full of shit.
What? Why?
I'll leave his name out of it. I wrote that, and then right after that I changed my mind. I forgot to delete that line, and I put, his name was Garrett blank. Sorry, Garrett. And no, not like my friend Garrett, who I shout out all the time. This kid spells his name Gerrit, and I put, Fuck you, Garrett. Not the kid, my friend. I just felt like saying that. I'm just kidding.
What the fuck?
Congratulations on your first try.
Oh, my F. Just get to the thing.
Anyways, meteors can cause damage to objects, injure people like we talked about, but there are 0 documented instances of a human being having been killed by a meteor. It's never happened. And let's be honest, that's a good thing, because if there was someone, and one day there may be, who is killed by a meteor, they are going to be filed as most hated person by God ever. The idea that a space rock floating from millions of miles away somehow found its way through space, dodged everything else, made its way into our atmosphere, fell to Earth, and killed you is just proof that there is a God and he hates you.
Okay.
So, that is just such an astronomically low number. There is supposedly a true story, and I've heard this before, of Jim Bowie, the creator of the Bowie knife, the dude who died at the Alamo, because his Bowie knife was supposedly so sharp that he was able to shear the barrel of a rifle off by
Wasn't
cutting
it made out of meteorite or something?
And he blended steel with a meteorite. Supposedly he created it, and because someone did an analysis of when you composite together a bunch of different metals and then you include certain ore from meteorites, the results you can get, most of the time it's brittle, but if you make the perfect composition, it makes something that's supernaturally hard. It's just way, it sounds fucking really erotic. It's way too hard. I put, in my script it gives it knife superpowers.
Oh my god, okay.
But that's supposedly something that did happen. So meteors sound kind of fucking cool. Let's be real. Sometimes we get a light show out of them. Sometimes we make wishes on meteorites. We call them shooting stars. So now we're going to cross the line from happy fun time into comet asteroid territory, where we're really getting to the good shit. And while we cross this line, it is important to note one specific thing. There is a lot of projected data on the internet, and a lot of it conflicts with the other stuff you'll find. So I am trusting NASA sources and some other sources I will name later. If you recall, I covered the Tunguska Blast, which was a massive explosion in Siberia in 1908. It was, I think, episode 102 if you want to listen to it. It's fascinating. It is almost certainly the result of a comet entering Earth's atmosphere, and the ice that was melting, along with the gases that were being released, caused a massive explosion. That explosion was 2,000 times more powerful than that of the Hiroshima blast.
Whoa.
So super crazy strong. And I go through all the different theories of what it could have been and the result of everything that happened. But we're going to do this thing where we're going to go on a nice scale of destruction. And this is actually information that I gathered from BusinessInsider.com. They have a really good article that links to NASA. They do a lot of references to it. And also Purdue University, my alma mater's Impact Earth Simulator, where you can actually go and just simulate a meteor impact. And it has all these different variables like angle of entry, what you're hitting it with, how fast it was going, the size of it. It's super fun to just destroy the world with it. So if you ever want to check that out, I highly recommend it. So a good way to think of a celestial object falling to Earth and whether or not it poses a threat is everything around the size of a car or smaller. So if you're thinking about a rock floating through space, if it's the size of a car or smaller, any car, just picture a car, it doesn't matter.
Like a smart car?
Sure, whatever. That's a smaller one, so that totally works. But the biggest car you've ever seen, who gives a shit? It doesn't really matter. But picture the size of a car as it's floating through space. If it's that size or smaller, it's going to burn up. You're good. If it makes it through, it's going to be something super tiny, meteorite. You're not going to have to worry about it. If an object that gets bigger than that starts making its way through, that's when we start worrying about things like an impact. For instance,
a deep impact.
I hate you so much. If an object the size of a house were to enter the atmosphere and explode, similar to the Tunguska Blast, it would be equal to roughly one Hiroshima bomb. So picture your house, picture it as a rock floating in space, and if it entered Earth's atmosphere and blew up before it landed, it's the same thing as an atomic blast. That's how much power these things have inside them when they burst.
It's pretty insane.
It is insane. It's insane and you're going to hear it scale now and how crazy this will get. Because these things are everywhere.
So when it blows up, all that rock and stuff, does that just get scattered everywhere?
Yeah, it basically gets vaporized.
Oh, okay.
Just in a massive explosion. So, one Hiroshima bomb, would have the radius of about 1.5 miles, where everything would be, in scientific terms, fucked. It would be like the Tunguska blast, where things just get flattened, buildings get damaged, like not well-constructed buildings would be blown to rubble, which is kind of crazy to think about. Now, if it were something a bit bigger, things really start to change. So we were picturing a car, a house. Let's go big here. Think of a football field. It's 100 yards. It's 300 feet, you know? Not the biggest thing in the world, but if you're picturing a big-ass rock... Well, I mean, we live around the mountains. We live in Las Vegas. We've seen rocks bigger than that, but picture a football field-sized rock floating through space. If that hit Earth, it's an asteroid, first of all, and if it came in, and let's be real, like, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that unlikely something like this could happen, it could cause, and would cause, massive devastation. The impact itself of this football field would literally wipe out an entire metropolis. Think New York City. That's the one they compared it to. If something the size of a football field fell from the sky and struck the earth in New York City, it would literally be reduced to rubble. The entire city would be gone. 300 feet of an object would reduce a city 13.5 miles long to rubble completely. It would also trigger an earthquake from its impact that would measure 7.7 on the Richter scale. Like, anything in the 7s is dangerous. 8s can be disastrous. Like the earthquake that destroyed San Francisco in 1906, that was a 7.9. Only 0.2 higher than what would be triggered by this asteroid. And it's what's so fun about asteroids is you get all of these disasters rolled into one. Like, I wonder how big an asteroid has to be to spawn Sharknadoes. But we're going to keep going with this, okay? So
is that one of the things on there?
Sharknadoes?
Yeah.
No. So
not Sharknadoes, just tornadoes in general.
No, they don't spawn tornadoes. So let's bump it up a notch, okay? How about a round...
Would you say you'd want to kick it up another notch? Bam!
I hate you beyond measure at this point.
I gotta entertain myself somehow. It's
you
one
can
in the
also
morning.
listen to the topic.
Okay,
that would work too. So let's bump it up a notch. How about 2,500 feet long, which is roughly half a mile wide? I think it's 2620 or something like that is half a mile wide. What's that face? What word did I say that triggered fucking catchphrase in your brain?
I'm still laughing.
At your BAM reference?
Yeah.
I hope Emerald's listening to this and is just like, I'll never say that word again. She's ruined it for me forever.
Oh, come on, Emerald.
So, anyways, half a mile wide. How devastating would it be if a rock that size hit Earth? Well, obviously that's much larger than a football field, and these things tend to not scale on a straight line. It just sort of starts to curve up exponentially. So this rock would roughly be around 9 times larger than the football field, and it would destroy an area around 32 times larger. So obviously it's not a 1-to-1 scale. So how big is 32 times larger than New York City? Well, that last rock wiped out New York City. This one would wipe out the entire state of Virginia.
Wow.
Virginia is 430 miles long and 200 miles wide. The impact crater, if it was dead center, would be not the size of the state, but the devastation from the impact would be more than enough to just annihilate everything in that area. This would trigger earthquakes well into the 9s on the Richter scale, and not just from the impact site. It could set off a multitude of faults around the world as a chain reaction from the level of that impact, and that's not all. The impact would be so severe, the amount of debris that would be ejected, or when it's a bunch of earth getting ejected, I call it earth-jaculated.
Oh my god!
Into the atmosphere would cause a cloud that would block out the sun, perhaps not covering the entire earth, but more than enough to affect the weather over a massive portion of the earth, possibly the majority of it. And again, we're only talking about something half a mile wide, which is batshit crazy. We're talking about turning summer into winter. That's how severe it would be. So we went from 300 feet to half a mile, and that's what we got. But hey, we human beings are tough. We have coats, heaters in our cars, our houses. We don't live in Virginia. So we'll make it through. Life will find a way. But what if we bump it up another notch? Let's bump it up 11 times that size. If you say a fucking word, I will strangle you, and I will release the episode as my murder confession.
Okay, go.
So, we're talking about something now 5.5 miles wide. It's pretty big. Why do I pick that size? 2 reasons. The first, that's the height of Mount Everest.
What?
So essentially, if you took Mount Everest and it was floating through space, and it was going to come down and strike Earth, what would happen? Well, basically, this is the stuff of my daydreams today. This is the good shit now. I mean, stuff of nightmares, whatever. So, the impact crater itself would be over 100 miles wide. So the impact site is around a fourth of the size of Virginia. The diameter for, like, the kill zone would basically be the greater part of whatever continent it struck. It wouldn't be hit with debris either. It would, like, vaporize everything. It's not like knocking down houses like the bomb scenarios. Mm-hmm. This is legitimately just like things would just cease to exist.
Like a scene in Dragon Ball Z where everything just crumbles up into thin air.
Kind of, yeah. That's actually not a bad reference because they blow up a lot of fucking planets in Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
So just imagine that before they cast their energy blast or whatever, there was a big rock that hit the planet and that's what caused it. So this is pretty intense at this point. Like, the sheer force of the impact and the wave of fire that would erupt from the impact site would cause the vaporization of most of this stuff. And we are talking liquid hot magma at this point being ejected and just spewed across whatever area it struck. The impact, and I'm considering all of these like land impacts. It's most likely going to be a water impact, which would have very similar effects.
Except it's tidal waves murdering us all.
Plus tidal waves and tsunamis and all the rest that's about to come. So, the impact itself would trigger earthquakes literally everywhere, most of which would be so severe they wouldn't have a way to register them on the Richter scale. So forget 8, 9, 10, which is unheard of.
You're saying it would be over 9,000?
Yeah, sure. It's over 9,000. It would feel as though the Earth itself were trying to tear itself apart. And in reality, it would be the Earth moving to keep itself from falling apart from how devastating the impact would be. The devastation would give us yet another disaster to add to the mix. Like I mentioned a second ago, it would cause tsunamis worldwide. Regardless of an ocean impact, it's still going to happen because all of the faults going at the same time, especially the big ones, would be literally cataclysmic. We all know that underwater earthquakes can trigger tsunamis. Just imagine all these faults going off at the same time. Literally every coastline would be not just at risk, but eventually just bombarded with massive amounts of water coming into the land. So, and we get yet another disaster from the impact: volcanic eruptions. Active volcanoes would likely begin erupting from the seismic activity all around the planet. Volcanoes near the impact site would basically erupt from the sheer force like a pimple being popped.
What?
Because it's just a massive object that's leaving a 100-mile wide crater smashing into the planet. So any active volcano near that would just feel that massive jolt, like the magma would just completely shift and just go through any crack or any fissure or any like active vent, and it would just erupt on impact. So like we're legitimately talking at this point 5.5 miles. It's not that big. You can drive 5.5 miles in your car. When you think about it in terms of like the size of a rock, yeah, it's very big. It's the largest mountain on our planet. As far as celestial objects go, there are a lot of them out there. And if one of them hit, this is what we're talking about. So now we have volcanoes erupting at the same time. Even dormant volcanoes would just say like, my time has come again.
Wow.
And just start going off. The debris that would be earth-jaculated would literally be
oh my God.
A massive vaporized chunk of the world being turned to dust and shot into the atmosphere, and it would cover the globe in a cloud so thick it would trigger a severe global winter. Like, think Long Night from Game of Thrones, or basically a new ice age. Virginia or not, you'd have a chance at you kind of have a chance at surviving the initial impact that was completely dependent on where it hit. If it's a land impact, well, you know what? There's 7 continents. So we'll just say you have a 6 in 7 chance of surviving it, depending on which continent it hit. If it hit, like, right along the line, then a lot of people are fucked from 2 different continents, but some of the people within the continent might survive. So we'll just say, and this is just me making up numbers here, 86% chance of initial survival for an impact like this, just from the event itself.
Okay.
Which means 14% of not just the human population, but the entire living planet would be obliterated in an instant. The death toll would just keep racking up, like if you were doing a really good game of Plague Inc., as the earthquakes,
oh my gosh,
tsunamis, and volcanoes ripped, burned, and drowned the better part of the planet. Those who survived that would live long enough to watch nearly all plant life on Earth die from the cold, and nearly all animal life die as the food chain became a line of dominoes falling one to another after basically all these species start to go extinct.
That's terrifying.
The planet itself, in this case, would survive. Eventually, the debris would clear in the sky, and the sun would shine again. The continent...
How long?
I don't know. It's just kind of speculation at this point, because it's only happened, 66 million years ago, and they don't know how long it took to clear up. The face of the world itself would literally be changed by the devastation. The continents could shift because of it. All the eruptions could cause, new islands everywhere. Lots of things would change. But maybe, just maybe, some human beings would survive. Like the crazy ones that had the bomb shelters that were super intense, or the really rich ones with their weird contingency plans, like in that American Horror Story Apocalypse thing where they all had vaults for them to survive in.
Imagine being on the International Space Station and watching your fucking planet get destroyed.
How long can we live? How many more rations do we have? Because there's no way we're going back to that fucked up planet. But some people might live. And I did state that there were 2 reasons why I picked that size of asteroid. One is because it was the size of Everest. The other is because that would be an asteroid that was 1 mile in diameter, smaller than the lowest estimate for what hit at the, and I'm going to try and say this like it's pronounced, Chicxulub crater. You heard me try and pronounce this over and over. The most ridiculous pronunciation I could ever find. The asteroid that hit the Chicxulub crater, which is in the Yucatan Peninsula, is estimated to be between 6.8 miles and 50.3 miles, which is a huge range in diameter. So, mass extinction level event was 5.5.
Okay.
6.8 is the minimum of what happened to basically exterminate the dinosaurs. What happened 66 million years ago that triggered the mass extinction on the planet was, at the smallest, 6.8 miles in diameter. When that happened, 3/4 of all plant life and all animal life on the entire planet died off. Just gone. It almost exterminated everything.
But everything can evolve and come back.
As long as they're not killed off by the food chain disaster.
Okay.
The things that survived mainly were ocean life and birds. Actually, birds survived fairly well after this massive extinction. Because a lot of birds are scavengers, and that's why they say that a lot of dinosaurs, that survived that era, slowly evolved into birds. It's kind of the theory in Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park if you read more about it, rather than just watch the movies. And that's why the end of Jurassic Park, he's looking out the window when they get away from the island, and there's a flock of birds that are flying next to him. So it's something that is widely thought is a species that could survive this sort of extinction level event, which would keep life alive on the planet. So remember Yellowstone? We talked about Yellowstone, how devastating it would be if it went off, how it's gone off, I think, 3 times in the past. Yellowstone, I'm guessing you're going to say yes, but you're too busy doing your ponytail at 1 a.m. So Yellowstone has an estimated power when it erupts of around 875,000 megatons. When you toss out a number like that, it's quite literally unfathomable. You can't figure that out. Hiroshima, we've all seen pictures of that, right?
Yeah.
That's 15 kilotons. Kilotons. That means that Hiroshima was 59 million times weaker than the Yellowstone volcano when it erupted. That's insane. And, you just can't picture that. That is 875,000 megatons. That's a huge number. The impact at Chicxulub, the one that exterminated the dinosaurs, is estimated on the lower end to be 100 million megatons. That's what really attracted me to this, is Yellowstone is terrifying to me.
Yeah.
And this is equal to 114 Yellowstones erupting at once. That is 5.5 miles. 5.5 miles would reshape literally everything, the entire history of this planet.
Wow.
And these numbers, they go up so high, it is literally the definition of unfathomable. You cannot put this shit together. You can't imagine that sort of power, or literally how anyone would ever measure it. There's no tool where you're going to stand on the shore with a giant tsunami coming oh, look at that, 100 million megatons. No, you're
my God.
Everything's going to fucking die, is what it comes down to. And that is 50.3 miles wide at the largest estimates. And this is something that we know has happened before to our planet. And there are so many asteroids out there just floating around in space. Space is infinite. We can't, picture how far it keeps going. So it really got me thinking, what is the biggest asteroid that's ever been discovered? And I thought it was ironic because when I started looking it up, it was really easy to find.
Really?
Because it is also the first asteroid that was ever discovered, which makes total sense because the biggest thing out there in the sky was also the easiest to see, which isn't a big surprise. Like, as far as things go, they're easier to see the bigger they are. It's called Ceres, Ceres. It's the inspiration for the aforementioned movie Armageddon, because when it was measured, it was said to be roughly the size of Texas. And that's how they measure Ceres in real life. That's how they measure the asteroid in Armageddon. It's about 800 miles long and 600 miles wide. It's massive. It's a huge rock floating out there. It has a mass 200,000 times that of the one I just talked about that killed the dinosaurs. And we know this one is just floating around out there. It's the first one we ever saw.
So would this one just obliterate Earth?
Well, it's awesome you mentioned that, because Discovery Channel just so happened to run a simulation of what would happen if a quote-unquote massive asteroid collided with the planet. I think this was in 2019. The size they used for their simulation was 500 kilometers, which translates to 310 miles, which is almost one-third the size of Ceres. So 33% the size of the largest asteroid we've ever seen.
All right.
So this doesn't even equal what would happen if Ceres hit us, but this is what the animation is. And you can actually go online and watch this. It's actually a really incredible video because it's really well done. Just trying to picture what it would be like to live through this, it's terrifying. You really can't. And by live through, I mean be alive when it occurred, because you would not be alive when it ended.
Wow.
So
you can't post it on Instagram that you survived.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing, too, is like, if you want to see this video, you're going to have to Google it, because I can't find a way where I can link it to our Instagram, which I was really, really trying to hunt down. But I'm going to describe it to you. So this massive object would crash into our planet, and not just like cratering like the rest of them. It would literally be smashing into it. It would, in no uncertain terms, attempt to displace our planet. And it would just annihilate every part of where it touched, digging out like a massive trench in the literal face of the Earth. And the impact would be so severe that a shockwave, and I think they called it a hypersonic shockwave, would just shoot around the world, removing trees from their roots, flattening most buildings, and anything basically on the same hemisphere of it would likely be obliterated from the shockwave. So the devastation would be immediate and instant. Not like extinction level, but it's like a giant bomb went off and it flattened everything. People could still survive that. Like if you were in a basement, if you just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Well, we'd have enough notification like, hey, this meteor or this asteroid is going to hit.
Well, you'd think so, but we're also going to get to that. So as it continued to bore into our planet from the speed and the momentum it had, it would start breaking up, while also breaking up a literal chunk of the Earth, which would then Earth-jaculate, but this time would not be into our atmosphere. It would just exit our atmosphere entirely and enter space beyond Earth's gravitational pull.
All
the
right.
video, basically, it looks like a volcano erupting off of our planet and just shooting into space.
Would it kind of be like the moon when that thing hit the moon and took a whole
Very
chunk
similar.
off the
In
moon?
fact, the reason they picked this size is it's a quarter the size of the moon.
All right.
Because the moon was supposedly generated from another celestial impact with what the Earth used to be that dislodged a massive chunk of the Earth, which wound up revolving around the Earth and turning into the moon.
All right.
So, in this case, it would just shoot off and vaporize this giant chunk of our planet, and the force would cause a tsunami, and I'm using that word kind of loosely here, tidal wave tsunami of literal earth, water, and magma alike. It would produce a wave, and it's a literal wave of this material that would just encircle the Earth. And it's just this massive, mile-high wall of fire, liquid fire, ripping apart the surface of the planet. It's not cruising over it. It's literally like ripping it up, because this impact would be so deep, and don't say deep impact, that it would just like, whatever was below the surface of the Earth would be part of this wave as well.
So I was going to ask, like, because our Earth has the different, like, molten,
Layers.
So would it just, it like hits the Earth and it goes through all these different layers of the Earth, right? And it's the center is just fucking lava, right? Or magma or whatever you want to call it.
Or mole people, we don't know.
Yeah, or the reptilian people that live in the Earth. So is it just kicking up all that magma and just pouring it over?
Because the impact of it hitting would basically liquefy whatever it hit and then just shoot it outwards, you know? But because of the gravity that the Earth has, it would just wrap around the planet. And the topography of Earth would be completely erased. Like, all those doomsdayers in their bunkers, there's no way they would ever be deep enough. And those rich people and their rich people contingencies that I don't know about would be vaporized just like the rest of us. Within a day, it would just be the entire end of everything on the planet. Every living creature in the sky, on the ground, in the oceans, they'd all just cease to be.
But our planet would still be there.
Earth would literally go from being home to an uncountable amount of life to a fiery ball floating through space. Earth would still exist, but it wouldn't look absolutely nothing like it does now. It would be a planet of fire. That's exactly what it would look like until eventually it would settle down. It would be thrown off of its axis.
Wow.
Its rotation would be altered. And if anyone was alive to count it, it would basically make whatever the day was, because of the rotation of the Earth,
totally different.
Take around 208 hours longer.
What?
Because of how jarring the impact would be. It's just, you can't picture it.
How is that possible?
Because it hits it so hard, it stops turning. It literally stops turning.
Oh my god.
So, all of that would happen, and maybe millions upon millions of years afterwards, life could develop again. Maybe. Once everything settled down, if the gases that were released from the Earth somehow created an atmosphere again, because the atmosphere would basically be just decimated. So, this is 500 kilometers, a third the size of Ceres. So, should we be afraid of Ceres? I mean, it's the first asteroid ever discovered and the largest asteroid, so it's got to be close.
With our luck, something's going to come in, hit that fucking asteroid, chip a big, huge chunk of that asteroid off, and send it straight for us.
With our luck? I don't think you understand how lucky we are, dog. So as far as it goes with Ceres, yes and no. Yes, it is close. No, we should not be afraid of it, because it is in the asteroid belt.
What does that mean?
So for those of you who aren't aware, between Mars and Jupiter, there's this giant ring of debris that floats around. It's called the asteroid belt.
Okay.
It's because it's a bunch of fucking asteroids. The reason it exists there is because of Jupiter. Jupiter is huge, and it's so huge it almost became a star. It's theorized,
it's a giant planet.
It's theorized that it actually started nuclear fission, but it wasn't enough to actually turn it into a star. The reason it's theorized is because it generates so much radiation. It's similar to a star and how much radiation it generates.
So it's like we could never live there.
No, and that's the other thing, too. When people are like, oh my god, all these moons that might be habitable on Jupiter. I was like, no, they are so overwhelmed with radiation, like nothing could ever live there.
Unless it's like radiation.
Unless we figured something out where you could survive it, or there's something that already lives there that like can handle radiation.
Yeah.
That said, Jupiter being so big keeps the asteroid belt in place. And because of that, Ceres ain't fucking going nowhere. So, it's just so big. It's like this neighbor whose gravity is so strong that anytime asteroids or meteors that might impact Earth come through, they either fall into the asteroid belt, and through the collisions they wind up losing their momentum and just become part of it, or Jupiter literally just pulls them into it.
Okay, I was going to say...
Jupiter's gravity is insane. It just pulls all these celestial objects. Like, something struck Jupiter that is larger than any other celestial object we've ever observed, and the impact is like 10 times that of what exterminated the dinosaurs.
Wow.
We observed the impact. We're like, oh wow, that was like a little blip on Jupiter's surface. And when they measured it, it's like, oh yeah, that blip is roughly like the size of Earth. Like, it was an explosion roughly the size of Earth on Jupiter's surface.
That's terrifying.
That's how fucking big Jupiter is. It's like this big protective brother. It's absolutely fascinating. It's the coolest planet in my opinion, except for Uranus. That said...
It's Uranus.
I know, it's the better way to say it. But we don't need to worry about Ceres. So, what do we need to be worried about then? Well, it's really hard to say. We have 2,000 asteroids that we know about. So 2,000 that are documented.
Are those all in Jupiter's belt?
No. Those are ones that are... Some of them are just rotating around. And it's estimated off of this new thing that we ran that's supposed to be 91% accurate. Some new simulation with the most advanced technology that we have. That 11 asteroids have a feasible chance with their rotation of possibly striking Earth in the next 900 years. The first of which happens in like 2167 or something like that.
Oh, good. I'll be dead.
Yeah, we'll all be long dead. And the chances are in like the lower, it's like 2%. Super low. Still terrifyingly high. Like 0 is the number that everyone's hoping for. But 11 out of those 2,000. So something happened where a goal was put into place that we needed to start documenting every celestial object that could possibly impact our planet. The goal that was given to NASA was 90%. The reason this happened is because, despite the fact we monitor so much of the sky, we still miss shit. Because on February 15th, 2013, 7 years ago, not that long ago, we just got together. February 15th was the day after our first Valentine's Day. An asteroid 60 meters wide entered our atmosphere and exploded above the city of Chelyabinsk, think I'm saying it right, Russia. It damaged literally thousands of buildings, shattering all the glass with its explosion, and resulted in the injury of 1,500 people on the ground.
Wow. How did I never hear about this? It's crazy.
You did. Everyone did. We didn't know the impact, so to speak, of the devastation, but do you remember the video that everyone saw of like the dash cam where all of a sudden night just turns into day in Russia because there was like a comet that went over the sky and they said that it blew up in the Earth's atmosphere, and it literally, like, people are driving, it's nighttime and it's so fucking bright. It's like it's daytime. Like, everything is so bright, it's like it's daytime. And that's what it was. That's where it came from. February 15th, 2013, but Russia didn't really release the damage report of what happened for a while. And none of the agencies all around the world saw it approaching. It was literally picked up just before it blew up, leaving literally 0 time for warning. What I think is hilarious about this absolutely terrifying instance is that folks that were just hundreds of miles away, because the night became the day out of nowhere, got sunburned.
Shut
It released
up.
so much energy, and it was so luminous, it was so bright. They literally got sunburned from a flash in the sky that just exploded.
That's so scary.
And when that happened, it was like, okay, we need to document shit in the sky from now on. This came in, no one saw it coming. If it would have hit, it would have been fucking devastating. It would have been like around 180 feet wide, which is almost a football field. That's almost like, that's over half the size of the impact that would have wiped out the state of Virginia. It would have been absolutely devastating. But luckily, it just exploded in the Earth's atmosphere, you know? And that shit is scary. So,
it's super scary.
now that we know that that happened, are there any that we know about that may cause problems in the future? The answer is yes. There is one that I can find. It's number 99942, also known as Apophis. Apophis is an Egyptian god that is like the opposition to the light, which is depicted by a serpent, which is super fucking creepy, because this is one that some folks think will basically end life on Earth.
What?
It was discovered on June 19th, 2004, and by December of 2004, the calculations that were being done worldwide gave it a chance to strike the Earth of 2.7%, and it is supposed to arrive on April 13th, 2029, and in case you are wondering, yes, it is a Friday the 13th.
Shut up.
Everyone calmed down after the initial panic because everyone started doing calculations on what we could do. And once those calculations were done, it was determined beyond a shadow of a doubt, according to all the professionals now, that it will not strike either the Earth or the Moon in 2029. But the initial calculations stated that there was the 2.7% chance, which there's a scale of worry. Like, 0 is it's not going to touch us, 10 is we're all fucking doomed. The things that we monitor mostly, and I think there's only 2 out there in existence right now, are usually at a level 1. When this was discovered, by December, it was categorized as level 4.
Wow.
Which is just under, we need to figure something out because this could exterminate all life on Earth.
Can we launch like a giant ball of trash at it and just send
it
on another
We have enough,
trajectory?
right? Just shoot that giant pile of garbage that's in the Pacific Ocean that's the size of the United States into the sky and just let it crash into that instead. I think we just die a dirty garbage death. I'm pretty sure it would just keep coming. So
That's what she said.
I hate you so much. She wouldn't say exactly that unless it was some weird kinky sex. So Here's the thing about this, though. They decided that it's not going to hit Earth. Everyone can calm down. They kept doing calculations because everyone was still worried. What was discovered then is that it may come so close to Earth, it will pass through what is known as a, quote, gravitational keyhole. Now, what is that? It is a tiny area of space that this asteroid will pass through that is actually affected by Earth's gravity. So it won't be enough to pull it in, not by any stretch of the imagination. It should miss in 2029. But what it will do is alter its course, because it's going to touch our gravity, which is going to take it off of its normal course that it's been going around in. It's going to revolve around the sun, and it'll come back around on April 13th, 2036, which is a Sunday, not a Friday the 13th. And after that, for years, for almost 8 years, it was said that it was a hazard that needed to be monitored because on April 13th, 2036, it had like a 3% chance now to collide with the Earth based off of the course correction it was going to get from the Earth. That's how close it's getting.
It's going to slingshot around the sun.
It's going to come back around, and when it clips the Earth, it's going to pull it just a little bit closer to us. So the next time it comes around, it's going to keep getting pulled just a little bit closer to us, you know? So
that's terrifying.
They did a ton of calculations again when they figured this shit out, and they decided that, one, this is crazy, that the area it's going to pass through is so small, it's half a mile wide. In the realm of space and celestial objects and the amount of space that it could actually go through to alter its course like that, it's half a mile wide that this asteroid is going to pass through, and it's just going to hit that perfect spot that's going to pull it just a little bit. So they determined what the actual size of that gravitational keyhole was. And then after that, in 2013, it was moved down to a threat level of 0 because they decided in 2036 it is not likely. It's like a 1 in 10 billion chance of it actually hitting the planet.
All right.
And they're fairly confident about that. And I say they as like NASA and all the space agencies for all the different countries out there. It is still one of the most heavily monitored asteroids in the sky. Multiple space agencies around the world intend to send probes at it for a variety of different tests the next time it comes back into our solar system. Most likely before it passes by us, they're going to launch them out there to match its speed and eventually intercept it as it's traveling. And that includes the U.S. and China. In 2009...
Can't we send rockets into space and just aim it at it?
Just keep going. In 2009, Russia announced that they would have a mission that would try and deflect it and push it further off of its rotation, or whatever you call it, revolution.
Russia's like, we already had something blow up over our sky.
Yeah, they're the most worried about it. They're like, this isn't fucking happening to us again. So they're like, we're going to send something up there, and we're going to scooch it. We're going to nudge it so it doesn't pass through the gravitational keyhole. And then in 2011, China announced that their mission was to be the same, to deflect it, and they're going to try and adjust its orbit with, I shit you not, a solar sail. They're going to land something on it. It's going to deploy a fucking sail so that it's pulling solar winds, and it moves the rock, and they can, steer it.
Oh, what?
So they're almost like space pirates in this case.
No.
And I really hope they have a sweet-ass design on that solar sail.
Oh, God, okay.
Then, in 2016, 4 years ago, Russia, who's been continuing to monitor this asteroid, like all the other countries, has developed contingency plans in case something were to really threaten our planet, like a celestial object that we knew was going to impact our planet. And they've decided that one of their strategies is going to be tested on suitable candidates, which means
they're sending people into space.
Asteroids that come close. So that strategy is no joke. Shooting possible asteroids with multiple intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Oh, God, okay.
They're gonna nuke the fucking thing. And just to see what would happen if you nuke an asteroid floating through space. And if there is any form of intelligent life out there in the universe, and they observe us in any way, shape, or form, and we just haven't caught their attention yet, something that might catch their eye is, I don't know, a bunch of fucking nuclear weapons exploding in space, destroying a giant fucking asteroid. So maybe we are safe. Who knows? A lot of folks seem to think so. And we are advancing to a point where our society's technology can help us prevent possible doomsday scenarios, like in these different cases, whether we're talking about solar sails or nuclear weapons or Bruce Willis drilling on an asteroid to try and split it in half. But if we notice it, we might be okay. And I will go ahead and tell myself that we're paying enough attention, but I will say that I do not think the good people of Chelyabinsk would agree with me on that.
Nice.
And that, my spooky friends, is the Asteroid Doomsday scenario.
That's super scary. Thank you.
So hopefully, if you're having a bad day, you can look up to the sky like I was doing today and say, just let it end.
Oh my God,
and you'll know that all you need it to be is about a half a mile wide.
Oh gosh.
And you'll be good to go. Realistically, 5.5 miles, and then like everything will be good to go. So, yeah, that is everything I have for episode 115. It's been a really fun time. Hopefully, you guys are sending us more of those homegrown horrors. We've seen a lot more come pouring in.
So thank you so much, everyone.
But keep them coming. We want to go back up and start reading more on the Storytime episodes. So email storytime@scaryish.com or go over to our website, scaryish.com, and click on Contact Us. Fill out that form and send it our way. You can also hit us up on any of our social medias. Scaryish.com, our website, has all of them. All of the little icons on the right-hand side, just scroll down and you will see them. Or you can just go to facebook.com/scarishpodcast or tweet @scarishpod. Or go to Instagram @scarishpodcast. Follow us, comment, or message us directly with your story. We would love to read them on the Storytime episodes, which, like Robin said earlier in the episode, are Tuesdays, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Robin, for folks who would like to donate to us, how can they do so?
You can help support us by going to patreon.com/scarishpodcast. Those are monthly donations, whole bunch of different tiers. You can check those out. And you can go to ko-fi.com/scarishpodcast. Those are one-time donations, and all those donations help us upgrade our studio setup. So, yeah.
Indeed. And I think that's everything we have for episode 115, so go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.